Good evening, everyone. It's time again for Train Tuesday. I'm your host, Jim Wiggin, and what a show we've got for you tonight. Let's see who's hanging out there in virtual train world. We've got Delta 9, West Coast Railroad Productions, Mark, Eric, Joseph, Anthony, Elijah. We've got Hybrid Hobby himself, Mr. Manny is out there, and we're going to talk about him a little bit later in the program. He's just finished a really great how-to video for everybody out there that's got the Genesis 2.0-9s. He did a great video for us on lighting effects, so stay tuned for that. We've got Nicholas and Zach and Rick and George and the MTG squad. We've got Lauren James himself from Otter Valley. Thanks for coming on board. And I've got something for you, Lauren, that you're going to want to see later in the show as well, too. Who else we got? We got Rory. We got Matt. We got Michael, Anthony. And we've got Mr. Derek himself, DG Model Works. So, hey, this is great. I'm glad to see everybody coming on board. I'm hoping you guys like the new format. 7 o'clock Central seems to be working for a large majority of you guys. I also like to see that you guys are maybe not catching a live show, but you're catching us over at the YouTube channel, and I've seen the subscriptions go up. So for everybody out there that's subscribed, thank you very much. We appreciate it. And we got something else exciting that's going on. Couple of things. This Saturday at 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central, I'm going to be joining my friend Tony Cook from Model Railroad News and also Ken Jr. from Train World. We're going to be talking about the bicentennial unit that we talked about last week. And it should be a good show. So check that out. Go over to Train World and check out their channel. And you'll see the show link. That's going to be Saturday, this coming Saturday, at 8 o'clock Eastern and 7 o'clock Central. And then on Friday, this coming Friday, at 7 o'clock Central, we're going to have a special new program called the Athearn Extra. Now, the Athearn Extra talks a little bit about some of the things that we're talking about in Train Tuesday, but we go deeper. And we're going to have special guest Tony Cook on board to show us some really cool pictures and just kind of talk about it. And of course, we're going to interact with you guys too. We're hoping on a Friday at 7 o'clock, that'll be a good time for you guys to already had your dinner, gone into the workshop and done some work and, invite us into your workshop or your layout room. So we're looking forward to that. So let's see who else is here. We've got Tom, Robert, BN Green 1970. That's a great name. Let's see. We've got Glenn Power Williams. He's saying, "Evening, Jim. Thank you, sir." And we've got the West Harbor Rail fan. He's really loving his Dash 9, it looks like. And let's see, John. So without further ado, let's do what we always do when we gather around Train Tuesday. Let's go ahead and get in a comfortable position in our workshop, put down the hobby knife, and grab the beverage of your choice, and let's get started for another Train Tuesday. So I've got some neat stuff to show you today, and the first one are these cool double-door boxcars. I'm going to go ahead and add these up here. So these are Evans. These were made by the Evans Company. Now, these are part of our Ready to Roll series. These were made by Evans Company, and they're really popular in the 1970s all the way up until just recently. Now, you'll still see them out there. And we've got in this release eras for just about everybody out there. The first one I'm showing you, this is the Chicago Northwestern, and it's the Prime for Grime variant. And I know you guys out there are really excited about these. These are great. If you're not familiar with Prime for Grime, what we've done, what the developers have done in their research, and what our factory has done, is all of the colors are muted or they're sun bleached. So they're not quite as vibrant as they were when they're new. They get really bleached, and if you look here, you can see the Chicago Northwestern logo is kind of faded out, and this is indicative of a boxcar in the 2000s. Now, what this means to you is you get this car pretty much somewhat pre-weathered, add the flat coat of your choice, and then you can add rust, grime, graffiti, whatever your heart content, and it's a great starting point for doing some weathering. Now, this one's going to be available in three different road numbers, And again, this is for the 2000s era. So early 2000s, these would be left over, of course, from what happened just a few years prior. Coming up next, also in the 2000s and also part of our Prime for Grime, this selection right here. Now, a lot of guys have been asking for this type of boxcar. It's been mainly the younger guys, and this is the Hartford and Slocum. Now, you know, indicative of boxcars that are common now and have been common since about the 2000s, late 90s. Not a lot of flashy logos, not a lot of flashy colors, pretty basic. But in reality, that's what we're seeing on the rails today. And so the younger folks out there, the younger modelers have been asking for these boxcars. And so we've gone ahead and added these to the January pre-orders. Now these are, again, this would be appropriate for 2000s era, and these are Prime for Grime as well. So they're just waiting for your favorite flat coat and for you to get creative with them. Now for you guys that are into earlier eras of modeling, say the 1970s, we're also offering the Louisville, New Albany, and Croydon. This one here, not Prime for Grime. This is exactly as how it would appear when it was new. Doesn't mean you can't weather it, but these are delivered basically as they would have appeared when they were new. And again, this is 1973, and you can really tell a little bit different from our previous one. Take a look at the one from 2000. Take a look at the data markings and such, and let's go back, 1973. There's still some data on there, but it's a little bit different. But the thing that I like about Athearn 1970s cars is we include the ACI panels. And if you're modeling 1970s, this is something that you got to have. You know, pretty much from 1968 all through the 70s and into the early 80s. And sometimes you'd be surprised, you'll still see one of these occasionally. I haven't seen one in many, many years, but there's some old freight cars in parts of the yards out there that probably still have one of these hanging on for dear life. So also for 1973, we've got the gelled ones. Now this one here, again, you can see it's a little bit different from the earlier ones that I showed you from the 2000s. Not quite as picturesque, if you will, but indicative of that time. And again, all of these are going to be available in 3 different road numbers, so you can mix and match. You can get all 3 of the same. Now we do have one for the 80s, and this is one that's been very popular in the past. We've offered it in the past, and that's the Tropicana cars. This is 1980s. This is firmly into the 1980s. Kind of neat because you're still looking at early 1980s. You've got your ACI label right here. But you've got this really nice, attractive dark green with the orange juice and orange, pretty appropriate. And if you were doing any type of rail fanning in the 1980s into the 1990s, these were pretty common. So again, these are ready to roll. And the great thing about ready to roll is they include a lot of neat details, not over the top like the Genesis models, but some people don't want to bring their cars to the club or to the modular shows with all that detail and risk losing that detail. Those Genesis cars are usually ideally set on your home layout. But for those of us that enjoy something like Fremo or any type of modular standard, or we like to take our equipment to the club layout, these are perfect for that because they have just enough detail to look realistic, but not so much that you might lose it in transport. And trust me, as somebody that's been involved in modular clubs in the past, it's not usually the public that causes all the damage. It's just getting from the vehicle to the show and back again. Stuff can get jostled around, and you know how it is. There's just enough detail to make these guys look really good where it counts. Not to mention, too, that these all include the metal wheel sets. They track really nice, and they've got the appropriate weight from the factory. So I'm going to go back to my screen, my home screen here, and see what you guys are saying about these cars. These are really nice cars. We've sold these in the past. Really like these. Harold is saying, these Tropicana cars I like, I want these. Yeah, they're pretty cool. I mean, they bring back a lot of memories. Brandon's happy. He says, wow. Yeah, these are nice. The Tropicana cars, again, Anthony, he's saying yes, he likes the Tropicana cars. They are very popular. We've had them in the past, and they've always sold very well. So you will have until the end of this month, it's Friday the 28th, to pre-order through the dealer of your choice. And these tend to go fast. Ready to roll box cars always tend to go fast. You know, you can sometimes get lucky and see if a hobby shop's got one or two, but most of these get pre-ordered and they go really quickly. Yeah, they really are. And for me, they're the perfect looking car for operations. They really are. Tim's like in the 70s and 80s cars. Yeah, that's still a very popular segment of model railroading right now, or eras. Christopher's wondering, is that green or black? If you're talking about the Tropicana car, it's that really dark, dark green, almost like a forest green. Okay, so let's get on to our next item. I see some guys asking about vehicles. So we haven't offered these in a while. And you'll notice we've kind of said 50s sedan, and you can probably, you know, we're not going to come right out and say what they are, but you know what they are. They were very common in the 1950s, all the way up in some cases into the 1980s in, say, New York City. They did make these for both fleet, and they also made them for you know, standard use. Growing up in my small town in New Hampshire, I knew of one of these that was just a regular sedan. It wasn't a taxi. It wasn't a police car. Somebody used it as their daily driver. So they did exist as daily drivers. And so we're offering them both as a daily driver as well as some type of fleet vehicle. So we're offering them in different colors, and sometimes the colors can dictate what era you can use these on. So typically these are in the mid 1950s, but you can also use them in the 1960s and 1970s layout with some creativity. You can also use them in newer era layouts, you know, depending on how you weather them. Maybe you've got a small company that has an older fleet of fleet cars. The possibilities are endless. So what we've done here is we've got our standard one in a bright red and a pink one. Now, before a lot of you younger guys start laughing and saying, why would anybody do a pink car? So here's a great little piece of trivia for you. After World War II, a lot of the major automobile manufacturers started making their colors brighter and in pastels. Pastels were extremely popular going into the 1950s. So seafoam green, pink, they all had their own versions of these pastel colors. And you may say, why were these made for men? Well, think about it for a second. A lot of men were getting out of the service. They had served in World War II. And your typical Army Jeep was either gray or olive drab. Your typical equipment, you know, your 40 Ford sedan was either gray, black, or dark, dark blue. They were real, almost earth tone colors or just a dark color entirely. And by the 1950s, things were looking up. People wanted brighter colors to kind of go with the mood. And believe it or not, pink was actually a pretty popular color on just about all the domestic vehicles, including this one here. So we're offering it in pink. So anybody that's doing the 1950s, this is perfect for you. Here's one that just begs to be either used as a regular civilian car. It's yellow, or you can do your own taxi company. You can do just about anything with this color. It's a very close to that taxi yellow color. Yes, not very common, but there has been known to see this type of sedan used as a police vehicle. And so we're offering it as just your small town sheriff style police car, complete with the gumball light that was popular in the 50s into the 60s. Here we go with some of the taxi service. And this is kind of cool. This one's just a city cab company, airport service. This is indicative of a paint scheme that would have been popular in the late 50s into the early 60s, especially with the airport service on the door. You know, it reminds me of the Pan Am era of flying and international flights that were getting more and more common. So it's a neat little piece of history you can put on your layout if you're modeling transition era all the way into the mid 60s. Something a little bit more modern, more like into the 70s, maybe into the 80s. You get the downtown taxi, the 24-hour service logo kind of puts it into that era of 1970s, 1980s. So before I go on to the Ford C trucks, I want to see if you guys have some comments and or questions on these. Let's see what we got. Joel says, car 54, where are you? I don't know. Adam 12, what's your 20? It's pretty cool. Yeah, these are pretty nice. Let's see. Will these fit the 50-foot auto racks? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I would think so. Yes, Elvis drove a pink Cadillac, and I think he gave one to his mom as well. Ted says, yeah, there were a lot of car colors in the 1950s that were pastel. Yeah, I mean, General Motors, Ford, Studebaker, all of those guys had, you know, pastel colors. So we had to do the pink one. I remember specifically Chevrolet for, I believe, the 55 year had a beautiful paint scheme of coral pink with like a granite gray top, and just really nice paint scheme. And of course, Ford and Dodge and all those guys, they had their versions too. But yeah, this is the era of the seafoam greens and the pearl whites and the really bright colors. Okay. So I think some of you guys have already thought about some ideas for these, and yeah. What are the MSRP for these cars? Oh, that's a great question. Now remember, this will differ from what you see at your local shop or your online retailer, but MSRP is $29.99. It's going to be cheaper than that at your dealer. So contact your dealer. Your dealer knows about these now, and he's probably waiting for your pre-order. Ask him how much he's going to be charging for these, because they're going to be a little bit lower than what we show here. All right, so let's get on to some tractor trailers that we're offering as well. So we only talked about it briefly when I did the monthly announcements. This is the Ford C tractor, and this is a tractor that was in production for many, many years. Believe it or not, Ford was still making these in the 90s, I think up to 91. Which is just amazing. It came out in the 60s. It was extremely popular in the 70s. I always laugh when you watch older television shows like Chips. You always see these trucks all over the highway. They were that common. They were more of a short distance truck. They don't have the sleeper cab to them, but they were everywhere. They were pretty inexpensive for their time. And of course, they had a great track record too. And Roadway was one that actually purchased a lot of these Ford tractors. So we're doing the two different Roadway versions like you see here. Now, if you want to know when to put these, what era to put these in, these Roadway trucks, you're looking squarely at the 70s and 80s, especially with this type of truck. Roadway had gone to different trucks by the 90s, and of course by the 2000s they were gone. They had merged with Yellow Freight. So if you're modeling the 1970s into the 1980s, these are perfect. These were seen all over the place. I specifically remember seeing these in the late 70s and early 80s all around my area. Real common paint schemes. The Roadway Express, that was real common as well. And again, I think I've got a picture here, a vintage picture. Here we go. Now, what's neat is, take a look. I'm going to zoom in on this because this actually looks newer than what I'm saying. Take a look at this vehicle here. That's might be a neon. I mean, that's 90s. You've got a Ford Econoline over here. That's easily 90s before they went to their last body style. It's like a Chevy Astro back here. So, you know, you could justify this to be early 90s. I can't quite make out those tags. But these are perfect for your layout where you've got some type of industrial setup or roadway or highways, things of that nature. But these look really great if you've got a transfer station on your layout. You can put these on one side of the building or on the side of the building where you're opposite of where you're loading and unloading boxcars and such. And again, these were everywhere in the 70s and 80s. And according to this picture here, it looks like about the 90s, which pretty neat. Yeah, so it looks like that was a neon. Yeah, and I can't tell if it's the first gen or a second gen. I'm not real up on my neons, but so you're looking at least mid 90s in that picture, which is kind of cool. So that gives you, that gives you some leeway there, and just proof that there's a prototype for everything. So the Pi Nationwide, another one that for a brief amount of time had the Ford Cs. And again, you're going to look at these mainly in the 70s and 80s. I couldn't find any pictures of these in the 90s, at least with this tractor. Much more modern trucks, but not the Ford. But again, very common. This would be more into the 1980s, just before the 90s maybe. And of course, this one, I mean, everybody needs one of these because maybe you've got your own trucking firm. Maybe you've got your own railroad and it has a less than carload trucking service. That was pretty common at one time. Or maybe you just simply want to have a family member's name on your truck, your wife's bakery shop or, your dad's electric repair shop, something like that. These are great for doing that kind of creative stuff. They just come white. They're already painted, but they're painted white. There's no markings on them. You can do one of two things. There's a lot of decal manufacturers out there that make decals for your standard trucking companies and things of that nature. Or you can even make your own decals now. It's pretty easy. You can get the decal paper and use some basic computer programs to make up your own graphics and images and things of that nature and make up your own trucking fleet. So we usually offer these as an undecorated or unpainted version. In this case, they're going to be painted white. They'll have the little markings and such, but you've got a blank canvas for your own thing. And this one, this one's fun. One of the things that we've seen, and I've seen in comments and a lot of online discussions, is a lot of guys that are doing some type of industrial section in their layout or a switching layout, things of that nature. And bakeries are real popular. And if you don't know why bakeries are popular, it's because they actually accept a lot of different types of freight cars. You can get tank cars, you can get covered hoppers, you can get box cars. And so it's a really interesting industry to model. And this is perfect for that. You can use the Hostess Cake truck here and make your own HO scale setup for your town. And these are perfect for that. You've got a loading, unloading area for your bakery. Now you've got a truck for it. And so we had to offer this. And it's just a fun truck. And it's another one of those things too. Think about this. If you go to train shows with your modular layout, you always want to draw the crowd in, and the crowd wants to see something they recognize. And this is definitely something recognizable, something the kids will really enjoy seeing. A&R Freight System, again, I couldn't find a lot of pictures online of this, but you're looking at 1980s with this. Again, I found a few pictures of A&R Freight, but it was mainly with newer trucks. With this type of setup and this type of paint scheme, I'd say this would probably work well for a layout that's in the mid-1980s or so. Maybe into the 90s, but definitely the 1980s. And then last but not least, and this one's really cool, this is the old logo. Now, the UPS used this logo that you see here, what they call the package logo. They introduced this in '61, and they used that all the way up until 2003, and then they changed to their current logo. Now, the worldwide delivery service with the 800 number on it, I did some research on this, and from everything that I could find, the earliest date I could find was 1977, all the way up into the mid-'80s, even into the early '90s. So that pretty much sets this truck anywhere into the late 1970s, all the way through the '80s, maybe into the early '90s. Definitely before 2003. It was after 2003, they changed that logo, and the worldwide delivery service and this globe logo, that was long gone and had been replaced. So great vehicle to add to your collection. Remember too, a lot of you guys probably remember, for years UPS was hard to get. You couldn't get the Grumman trucks that they use. You couldn't get a lot of things that actually was lettered and painted for UPS. And fortunately, we were able to get the licensing for this. So this is a great model to add to your trucking terminal. All right, let's see what else is going on. Let's see, Michael says, hey, this is great and all, but when are you guys going to do another run of the Mac-R model tractors? Well, Michael, I'm glad you asked. The last I knew, we had been looking into it with the licensing, and it was a little bit, we weren't able to come to an agreement at this point. So right now, I don't have a good answer for you on the Mac-Rs. I'm not saying we're not going to do them, but right now, nothing in the near future. But hang tight. Maybe things will change in the future, and we can get those out for you again. Let's see. Eric's liking those. Let's see if I can get his comment up there. He says, may have to pick up one of these UPS trucks to go with my 2 UPS boxcar I picked up in Collinsville. Cool. Go back a little bit. Frederick's liking those trucks. It's just amazing how long of a lifespan that Ford had those. Now, the funny thing is, not this last time, but a couple of times ago, when I went out to California to visit with John and Janik and the other guys at Athearn, I actually saw one of these in California. Now, I mean, California, they don't have the rust issues that we have here in the Midwest and the Northeast, but it was kind of cool to, at the time, 2021, to see a Ford Series tractor. And I believe it was being used as a state vehicle. They were doing some road work, so that was pretty cool. Yeah, you're welcome, Stephen. It's one of those things where it's always important to, look at subtle things like the logos and do a little bit of research. And that way, when you're building your layout, you have a frame reference. People can say, oh, okay, yeah, you're modeling this year. I can tell because that trucking company used that logo, or that vehicle was new at that time, things of that nature. It's the little things that really make our layouts believable, and it's not always just the freight cars and the locomotives. So thanks for the comment. Let's see. A lot of guys are liking the UPS trucks. I'm liking the comments too. Winona's saying, I know a guy who daily drives a 60s Dodge. Yeah. That's the good thing about living in this time period. There's parts for this stuff. Steven's got a good question. He's saying, is the hostess lettering on both sides of the truck? Many of the Continental bakings covered hoppers and that one side and Wonder Bread on the other. Okay, so hostess on one and Wonder on. Yeah, that's a good question. I know what you're talking about. With these trailers, the Hostess, like you see on that screen, it's going to be the same on either side. So it won't say Wonder Bread on the other side. It'll just say Hostess. But good question. Got some comments here. Vito says, please do modern pickups from the 2000s. That's a good comment. Yeah, we'll look into maybe doing that. Let's see, one more question on this and we'll move on. I got to put Greg's. We still need a circus peanuts truck. Does anybody eat those anymore? My mom used to eat circus peanuts, and I always thought they were nasty. Kind of like up there with candy corn. I don't know. I don't know if they ever had a circus peanuts truck, but if they had circus peanuts, man, you got me all tongue-tied. If they ever had those trucks, knowing our development guys, yeah, we might do that. Maybe we'll have to do that just as a joke. Circus peanuts truck, that would be great. There was one more I wanted to show. Bobby says, I'd love to see more privately owned trailers. Well, Bobby, you bring up a great point. And here's something that you can do. And you've heard me talk about the product suggestion email over and over again. A lot of these smaller independent truckers and such have some pretty cool paint schemes, especially for the trailers and stuff. If you have information and if you have a good relationship with those companies and they're willing to do something, give us a call. Give us a call on that email. Go to the product suggestions email and let us know. We have done some smaller private trucking companies in the past, and developers are always looking for new things to do as far as our trailers. And we've got a lot of trailers in the ready to roll line. So the other question, and I don't know where it went, but somebody was asking, are these trailers available separately in this run? No, they're only available with the trucks. All right. So that's all I've got for the new stuff. So these are available until the end of this month. It's Friday the 28th. You have till the end of the day to get to your dealer and pre-order these. And we've got something for everybody this month for new products. So go ahead and talk to your dealer about any of these. And I've been seeing a lot of progress out there in YouTube land of some guys doing some great layouts. And hey, it's almost time for you to start adding some vehicles and some freight cars to do some operations. So now, one of the things I wanted to talk about briefly before pulling the pin on this episode is our friends with Athearn. I'll bring this up here. From occasionally, we'll have somebody contact us on Facebook or Messenger, and I will admit, while I'm thinking of it, yes, I am on Facebook. I don't really use Messenger all that much. Joel is out there, and he will testify. He sent me some pictures a couple of weeks ago. He probably sent them to me 2 months ago. So I'm not always the quickest on Messenger. So that's not your best way about going. Now, we are going to be working on an email where you can have pictures of your layout, pictures of Athearn product, things of that nature. But occasionally we get these through Facebook. And I've got some great pictures I want to share with you tonight. These came in from Howard Nason. Now, he got a hold of the SD70 ACU, our Genesis 2.0 model, and he's got 7021 here. And he did an absolute beautiful job of doing some weathering on these. Now, here's what I like about his weathering. And take a look here. I'll zoom in on some of this. This is very subtle. This is very much like you would see on a newer locomotive. It's a locomotive that has seen service. It's a locomotive that's been generating revenue for the Canadian Pacific, but it's not pristine. So you can tell it's still well maintained and it's still somewhat new, but it's got some service on it. And I really appreciate that. I mean, not to take away from you guys that do the weathering of locomotives that look like they've been around the block a few times, but you know, Howard just kind of reminds us, is like, you know, even these new locomotives, they're going to get some weathering on them. And he did a great job on this. This is 7021. Got another picture here. Beautiful backdrop too, by the way. But just subtle enough to look the part. You know, you've got most of your grime down here on your trucks. You can see fuel spillage and leakage. Absolutely phenomenal weathering. Here's a close-up. I mean, he thought of everything. Take a look at the cab. You see it? We'll zoom in on there. It's just excellent work. So Howard, thanks for sharing that with us. Absolutely stunning work. Really great work. Man, it looks like something, you know, you would see rail fanning. Really nice. Agreed. Yeah, really does. So Howard, thanks again. It looks like your modeling peers here enjoy your work, and we love showing that. So like I said, look, I'm hoping in the next few weeks to get a new email out. We'll probably advertise it more on the Athearn Extra. Yeah, we want to see what you guys are working on, and it's always fun to see how creative. Randall says, "Are you kidding me? You actually put the clipboard on the locomotive there? That's insane." It's detail oriented, it really is. Great stuff. Hey, remember I was telling you earlier about Hybrid Hobby and what he's working on. Let me show you what he's working on. He just finished this up today. Hybrid Hobby. He's done some reviews for us in the past. In fact, he did a review on the Athearn Genesis 2.0-9s, and we got a lot of feedback on the -9s through Facebook. We noticed on the forums, some people were saying, "Man, you know what? These are great. I love them, but I think the ground lights are too dim, or I think the number boards are too dim, or I think this is too bright." And one of the great things about the Tsunami 2 decoder is you can adjust all of those lighting features. Not only can you turn those lighting features on and off, but you can adjust the intensity of the light. And let's go on over to his video real quick. Let's go ahead and play that. So here he is. He's got the Genesis 2.0-9. In this case, he's got the UP. And this is what is great about his video. Now, we've done some videos. Derek from DG Model Works did something very similar with the SD80. And it's something that you can do with really a lot of the lighting features, well, all the lighting features for that matter, on both Genesis 2.0 and Genesis and other models that have decoders. You can adjust the intensity of the lights. So he's kind of going through here, showing you what they look like from the factory default. When we ship all of our locomotives, they have a factory default, and it's based on what the average person would consider to be normal. Now, we also know that you guys are operating in, you know, maybe different conditions of lighting, and maybe you want things to be accented differently. So the fortunate thing is you can adjust this. If you've been wanting to know how to adjust your lighting in your -9, go over to his channel. We'll share it on our Facebook social media later tomorrow. But go over to Hybrid Hobby, check out his video. It's a great how-to video. And do yourself a favor, get your locomotive out, put it on the test track, and program along with James as he shows you how to do it. It's real simple. If I can do it, anybody can do it. So I want to thank James for doing that for us with the recently reviewed Genesis 2.0-9s. One last thing. And I know if Lauren is still in the room, he's going to be excited about this. He has got a phenomenal hobby shop north of the border. Someday I'm going to get up there, and I'm blaming Lauren for me really getting in touch with my past and looking at this Canadian Pacific stuff. I mean, let's take a look and see what I got in the studio. What is not to like about this era of CP? I mean, growing up in New England, I would go up to Vermont, up by White River Junction, and this was common. You know, you had your typical lines, but this was common. And it was kind of neat because when I was a kid, a lot of the railroads in New England were kind of looking tired and old and decrepit. And you've got this bright red Jeep with the cool barricade stripes on the nose. And let's not forget, you know, when I was a kid, Pac-Man was brand new. You've got Pac-Man on the long hood. So as a kid, there was what wasn't there to like. You've got this bright red locomotive, and for me, it brings back some great memories of seeing CP Rail in Vermont. And this is, of course, the GP9. Now I know some of you guys were asking about the GP9s, and this is just one of the many that are coming out. We announced these last December. Now, this is a production sample, which means these should be hitting the hobby shop in the next few weeks. So if you pre-ordered one of these, you should be getting a phone call from your dealer. And I'm in a lot of trouble because in this release, we did Boston, Maine, of course, GP9s. We did the Alan Dustin Blue Dip era, but then we also did these too. And I'm really glad that my wife doesn't have an issue with me buying these models. So it's really something to look forward to. Like I said, a couple of weeks from now, we should have these in your hobby shops. I knew this was coming, Lauren, and I should have been prepared. Next week, I promise, I will have the, and they are gorgeous, by the way. Lauren actually did a live feed with me last year, and we talked about those in detail. And if you're a Canadian modeler, get in touch with Lauren. He is a wealth of information on Canadian prototypes, not just the big guys either. I was just amazed at how much he knew about everything up there north of the border. I hope someday I can get back up there. Yeah, they are. And, you know, I'm going to admit, I have a soft spot. I know some of you younger guys really like the GEs and the EMD 6-axles. I have a soft spot for the first generation high-nose Jeeps, mainly because that's what I grew up seeing. And, yeah. And this one, we've got it in 3 different road numbers too, Harold, so keep that in mind. So great stuff. I mean, it's a great time to be in this hobby. There's so many great things out there to make our railroads better. I'm really looking forward to seeing the other stuff that we come out with at the rest of the year. I'll tell you time for a couple of questions, and then we're going to pull the pin on this. Let's see. Bradley says, thanks for another great podcast, Jim. I can't wait until next week. You're welcome. I am certainly not as good of a podcaster as Mr. Lionel Strang, but I do my best. And by the way, don't forget, Bradley, if you like Train Tuesday and you want to get more of it, starting this Friday, 7 o'clock Central, we are doing the Athearn Extra. And there's going to be more than just line art. There's going to be actual models with us. It's coming from my workshop. You get to come into my workshop and see what I'm working on, what Tony Cook is working on, and we're going to have special guests. And it's going to be a good time. We're going to talk about the prototype. We're going to talk about the models. We're going to talk about what we're we're doing and what makes this hobby so great. So that's Friday, this Friday, 7 o'clock Central, Athearn Extra. Watch your news feed on your social media. We will send out an announcement when that is ready to go out. So I'm looking forward to it. Let's see. Nicholas, Jim, is John going to join us with an update on development? Always nice to see his insight and what is in the pipeline. Yes, he will not be with us Friday, but that doesn't mean he won't ever be with us on, say, an Athearn Extra or even a Train Tuesday. Something else that we like to do occasionally, we've done it once or twice, we'll do one of those special, like a first look Friday. And he is a very busy man. So, and he's really interesting to talk to too. I'm hoping as we go out throughout the year, when you start seeing us at shows and stuff, you'll get a chance to talk to John and see his background. He's got a wealth of information. Can be a dangerous guy to talk to too, because he's always thinking. So don't let up on those product suggestions, because we do read those. All right. Any new Amtrak being announced soon? Yes and no. I'll just leave it at that. Yes and no. I'm going to make you wait a little bit, but yeah, there's going to be some Amtrak. How new it is, you'll have to wait and see. Let's see, what else do we have? Herc, you never fail to disappoint. The Athearn fans need the Athearn gear and hats. They need them. I'll do my Shatner. So here's the thing, Herc. We are working on something in the background, and it's part of the reason why you haven't seen John and Janik and some of the other guys. We are working on something extremely hard right now, and it's big news. It's going to be coming out soon. Big news, really big news. Can't tell you what it is yet, and that's one of the reasons why we haven't done swag yet. But hold on, it's coming. Tom says, speaking of classic high hood Jeeps and Genesis Rock Island in the pipeline. Well, guess what? I'm excited, and I like Rock Island. That's all I'm going to say. Train Tuesday this Friday. No, it's bigger than that. It's much bigger than that. It's a big shoe. It's a very big shoe. We're going to call it Athearn Extra because it's a little bit extra of what we do here. You've noticed that originally Train Tuesday, we tried to keep it at 30 minutes, and it got longer. So what we're going to do is we're going to streamline Train Tuesdays. We're going to try to keep it in the 30-minute mark, and the monthly Athearn Extra will be longer. And you guys get to participate. We'll be answering your questions. Tom, you got me right where it hurts. I'm a Star Trek fan. Let's see. Richard has a question. Extra only on Facebook or also elsewhere? So Richard, same as what you get for Train Tuesday. So it'll be on YouTube. It'll be on Facebook. So it'll be live Friday at 7. And as soon as the show's over, like these shows here, it gets archived over on our YouTube channel. And if you haven't done so lately, go ahead, go over there, like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and you'll be updated of any new videos that we do. All right, I got time for one more question, and then we're going to pull the pin and let you guys get back into the shop and do some serious modeling. So let's see what we've got here. I'm trying to find a really good question. There's a lot of good questions, but I want to hit one that some of you guys have got some great comments. Let's see. We've done those. Let's see. Here we go. Here's a new comment. Yeah, I see the question on catalogs. So we don't really do the catalogs, and there's two reasons for it. We'll end the program on this question. Very good question. Herc asked, why don't we do some catalogs? So the reason being is twofold. One, in the old days, Athearn was pretty much, you know, if you needed a wide vision caboose in the blue box line, you got a wide vision blue box caboose. They were pretty much perpetually run for much longer. Nowadays, things are a shorter run. That's why we come out with new products every month. So every month we come out with a new catalog, if you will. Now that catalog is a PDF and it's available online at our Athearn.com website. Also, your dealer, if you ever want to see it in person, a lot of your dealers out there have them on a pegboard in their shop so you can see them. But yeah, that's one of the biggest reasons why we did that. If we were to do a catalog with the limited runs that we do, it would be near impossible to just keep up. We'd be updating it every month, and that's what we're doing. So in the current scheme of things, the catalog, traditional sense of a catalog, just would not be feasible for either you or us. But the cool news is every month, instead of just every year, you can look forward to new things that we're working on. So great question. Thanks for asking it. And with that, we will pull the pin on another great episode of Train Tuesday. I want to thank you all for coming on board and sharing your evening with me. Hopefully you're in the workshop watching this and you're getting a lot done and enjoying the hobby. We've heard it before. It's the best hobby in the world. And I will leave you tonight with reminding you that you've got till the 28th to pre-order anything that we talked about here tonight. And until next time, I'll see you guys Friday, 7 o'clock Central, and you'll get to see Tony with me. But until then, I want everybody out there to be happy, be healthy, do some great modeling, and above all, high greens, everybody. Take care.